Hi, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of My Words, Our Journey. Be careful what you wish for. I'm your host, Monty. Let's begin with Chapter 1. Amber Reynolds could hear the voices coming through the floor beneath her. The closet was beyond dark, but she guessed there was a vent nearby that carried the laughter and young voices from the party downstairs. There was no way for her to know just how long she'd been locked away. What she did know was that her legs ached, her back was on fire, her throat was like desert dry, and she had screwed up big time. The 18-year-old tried to replay the events of the last few hours for two reasons. First, she was hoping to find an answer to why this was happening to her, and second, she needed to distract herself from the fact that she needed a bathroom. Amber and her family called Wytheville, Virginia, their home, and had since before she had been born. That was one of the reasons she found herself in the closet and home right off campus of the University of Southern California. Her plane had landed the previous day, just before lunch, giving her 2 days to enjoy the wide range of things that Los Angeles had to offer a first-timer. After paying too much for a cab ride and checking into a room at the Radisson Midtown, which is less than a half a mile from campus, Amber stopped by the front desk to see where she should have lunch. That was when she had met the monster. He had not been the person that had checked her into the room moments earlier, but she had noticed him behind the front desk area. His name badge said Brad. Cute, but a book smart kind of cute. More than a jock kind of cute is how she would describe Brad, the assistant front desk manager, college junior, and now kidnapper. Not only had he charmed her with his smile, eagerness to help her to find a great place near campus for lunch, but he also carried himself with a confidence that said, "Hang with me and I can show you the real USC." That was why she had accepted his lunch invitation. Amber desperately wanted to learn all she could about her college choice, while also having great memories to take back to her small town. The pair talked about his psychology major and her future law degree, the dorms, the city, and all it had to offer, and finally the parties that went on basically every night. He had invited Amber while walking her back to the hotel, almost as if an afterthought, but now as she reflected, Amber felt sure he knew what he was going to do long before he had asked her to lunch. She was the one locked in a small, smelly closet, but it could have been any young girl, unlucky and foolish enough to fall for his smile. The party had started off small, maybe a dozen of Brad's friends, neighbors. After about an hour of small talk and light beer, the crowd had expanded to almost 50 loud and eager partygoers. It was about that time that the party really started to pick up, that Amber felt something was off. She had had a few beers in the past and knew that it was not the alcohol that was affecting her physically and mentally. She had thought Brad had been so sweet to take the time away from his partying to take her upstairs to the spare bedroom to lie down and rest. He had assured her it was a combination of the time change, jet lag, excitement, alcohol, nothing a little nap wouldn't fix. He had said as he convinced her to head up the stairs in front of him. Hit to the back of her head with what she figured was a beer bottle had caused her to black out even before she hit the hardwood floor. Now she could feel the aching in her back, her neck, and the pounding in her head as she wished she had waited until the following weekend like her brother had begged so he could have came along on the trip. Her breathing was becoming strained through the small area her assailant had left her, around her nose. It felt like from her shoulders to her ankles she was wrapped tight in some kind of industrial strength tape. There was no way she could move, bend, or even cause the bandage to move at all when she tried with all her might. In her mind's eye, she could see herself wrapped tight like a mummy. Only your thoughts and the fears and the darkness causes one to get a little crazy. So Amber was not sure how long it had been quiet downstairs. When she listened, there was no sound at all, and this was more frightening than when she imagined. With everything quiet, was everyone gone? How long would it be before he came to confront her? The question she had asked again started to twirl in her mind. Was she going to die? Was he only interested in one thing? Would she see her family again? Amber was brought back to reality when she heard the stomps, the creaking of the stairs, as someone slowly made their way up. It was as if they were purposely making it loud and slow, for effect, to punish her, maybe. Then when the heavy feet stopped right outside the closet door and stood still for what seemed like an eternity, she knew he was playing with her, having fun, feeding off of her fear. She did not have a clue as to what she could do to either help herself or hurt her chances for survival. All she could do was pray. When the door finally swung open, it took a moment for her eyes to adjust to the small amount of light that came through the second-story window from the street light not too far away. The room only consisted of a small mattress on the floor, something in a corner that she guessed was an oversized beanbag chair. Directly in front of her, the young man that had caused all this, with a smile on his face and a look in his eye that told her she was not leaving this room alive. Without a word, he reached in, grabbed her by the arms, lifted her out of the closet, and placed her in the center of the room, where she thought she may tip over, but she didn't. For a moment, Amber was not sure what her fate was. She could not plead for her life. She could not run, fight back, or do anything other than blink and try to breathe. Brad never said a word. He walked around her 3 times, and then from behind, placed one last piece of tape over her only source of air. Then he turned her so she faced the seat in the corner, where he plopped down with ease, spread out his legs, and smiled like he was preparing to watch a show. Amber knew the end was there. Thoughts of her family, friends, and the recent mistakes she had made all crossed across her mind. But the last 2 thoughts were questions. Why had he done this? And were the lights flashing she saw lights from her dying and going to heaven? Or was her killer taking pictures of her death? Chapter 2. Marcus Reynolds had been a highly decorated high school and college athlete, then had done a short stint as a second-tier wrestler on one of the lower-tier television shows. It's the type of show that young men between the ages of 19 and 38 watch on Friday nights from 11 to midnight. After that, he returned to Wytheville, where he worked at a local car dealership in the sales department during the day and helped run a wrestling camp 3 nights a week. He is a local legend, if not to everyone else, at least to himself. Over the last 2 days, however, whenever he spoke, it wasn't about himself or his many accomplishments. It was about his sister, what she had meant to him and his family, and how devastated they were by her murder. He had covered all the local news circuits, and today had just completed an interview on the Today Show through the local affiliate. He had thought it gone well overall, but he had gotten off track and a little upset, more than he had in previous interviews. Towards the end, it actually wasn't his best. He had actually called out the murderer. The words had been inside him since the first time the family had gotten together after hearing the awful news, when someone said all the right things like, "We know she's in a better place, and she's God's hands now." All he wanted to do was scream. When they started to tell stories of her life, her resilience, her sense of humor, her love for life, her dream of college, he wanted to scream. And finally today, when asked on national television what he would say to the murderer if he knew they were listening, he did not give the patented answer the family had decided on, the one that he had used too many times already. No, today, in front of millions of people watching on their television sets, he instead said, "I would challenge the coward to come to see me. Come try and do to me what you did to my 108-pound sister. If given the chance, I would show the murdering freak what real pain feels like, and I would do it slowly." When the words were finished, he had excused himself from the interview. He knew he had made a mistake by speaking his mind, but he had held it in for way too long. Sitting alone with his head almost to his knees, he thought about what he had just done and how disappointed his parents would be. For them, he felt bad, but for himself, he was aware that an enormous weight had been removed from his shoulders. Truth be told, he blamed himself for her murder. He knew others had thought the exact same thing. If he'd gone with her, she'd still be alive today. But he hadn't. Instead, Marcus had tried to convince Amber to go the following weekend when he didn't have to work. He had been unsuccessful, and she had gone on. Knowing he had spent the afternoon with family, but wanting to hit the gym, Marcus stood up and tried to decide how he could do both. His cell phone began to chirp, letting him know he had just received a text. He was not eager to see who was the first to let him know that he had messed up. Knowing there was a lot going on right now, he also knew he had to check his phone. He couldn't avoid calls or texts that would be coming his way. Instead, he sat back down as he read the 11 words that were scrolling on his phone. "Are you sure you want to see me face to face?" Marcus could not think of anyone that would think this was funny. Not even the many enemies he had made during his sporting days. He was not what you would consider to be a computer or cell phone savvy, but he could see the area code number was 213, and the header said the text had come from California. His heart raced with the knowledge that the killer may have made contact, while the larger part of him doubted it to be true. After staring at the message repeatedly and pacing back and forth, he sent his reply, a simple response, "How do I know it's you?" Followed by a not-so-simple question, "Have you seen a picture from the scene?" Neither Marcus nor the family had been able to get anyone to give them exact information regarding what had happened to Amber. They had all put them off for reasons varying from, it could jeopardize the investigation, to we think it'd be better if they stayed sealed for now. So the answer was no. They had not seen photos of a dead Amber. Her body had been returned to the family only 2 days prior, and the funeral was tomorrow. As he thought about the many photos he had seen of her the past few days, his cell phone chirped again. "Do you want to?" Without thought, he replied yes. He waited only a moment before a response came through. "There is no way to trace this disposable phone. When I feel I can't trust you, then I will be gone forever, and I assure you there is no way to ever find me. Are you sure you want to see?" When the picture finally downloaded on his antique phone, there was no mistake what he was seeing. The fear in her eyes could not have been more real if he had been standing in front of her while she attempted to take her last breath and failed. As the tears fell, the cell interrupted his grieving again. "Again, I will ask you one last time. Think about your answer, because there are always consequences. Are you sure you want to see me?" There was a short pause. Marcus could not think straight. The picture, the text, the grieving, and now the question. With his blood pumping and his rage heightened, he could not fathom what consequences could outweigh the benefit of getting his hands on the creep who did this to a member of his family. So he answered yes. The reply? "Then I will keep you posted of my progress, as I begin my travels in a few days. Remember, if I feel you've notified the police, I will just fade away, never to be found. 'Cuz." Marcus had thought about what "cuz" was for a few moments. C-U-S. As he continued to pace. Finally, he thought he had it figured out. "See you soon." And there we have the first 2 chapters of Be Careful What You Wish For. I hope you're intrigued and looking forward to our next journey. This one will be a little different, as I have not written this novel yet. I'll be writing and sharing with you as we go through the story together. Thank you, and have a great day.